It's the Church of Jesus Christ. So, Stephen, you've come on as a regular contributor for Coral Ridge Ministries. What do you see the strategic importance of Coral Ridge Ministries being?
You know, Rob, I remember attending a lecture once where a strategist said that part of the problem is that the church and sometimes Christian ministries are answering questions nobody in the culture is asking. And that is not the case with Coral Ridge Ministries. The things we're addressing, the questions that we are answering are exactly what what people in the culture are asking, whether it's about sexual ethics and gender or taxation or whatever it is. I think we're right on the beam of the questioning and the searching of our generation. And it's very powerful to watch.
Stephen, as times change, is Christian influence in media more important or less important now?
You know, Rob, it's hard to exaggerate the absolute necessity of Christian media. I spend a lot of time, as you do, watching the cultural conversation in our generation. And many times the conversation is about media. You turn on Fox or CNN or MSNBC, what are they talking about? Somebody's tweet, somebody's book, some piece of video clip. In other words, the whole culture is dialoguing through media. And if you're not there as a Christian ministry, if you're not there as a teaching ministry and a kingdom force, then you're not going to be part of the conversation. So I'm very proud of CRM and the way that they are engaging powerfully in media and shaping really the conversations of our time.
Our founder, D. James Kennedy, had a profound impact on you, Stephen, as he did me. What was so special about the man, and how do you see his legacy continuing today?
Well, he was special in so many ways that you know even better than I do. Everything from his look and being handsome and his manner and his authority. But I'll tell you the thing that most impacted me, other than maybe just his scholarship and the content of what he said, was his unswerving courage in defense of the gospel of Jesus. Let me tell a quick story. I attended with my church administrative team, church business administrators conference years ago, and D. James Kennedy was one of the main speakers. So we did a fun, humorous talk about church administration, how he had messed up, and joking and telling stories. And at the end, in front of 2,000 church administrators, he gave a powerful presentation of the gospel. Well, that might not sound that unusual, but these were church administrators. But he was unswerving. He preached the gospel. He called them out. And I remember when he started, I thought, well, this is not going to be high yield. I mean, these are church staff people. 50 or 60 people gave their lives to Jesus that day. And I got to tell you, that to me stuck in my mind as a man who was courageous in standing for the gospel. And that, I think, is the legacy that you are continuing, CRM is continuing, and that we are building on.
There's so many stories of impact from Coral Ridge Ministries, and here's our very own Christina Vidal with just one of them.
At Coral Ridge Ministries, our mission is to share the gospel globally, and it's a special joy to learn how God touches lives through our international broadcasts.
My name is Lydia Yoro, and I am from Albania. I came here 30 years ago in the United States. Albania is a beautiful country, but back in the days before 1995, it used to be a very communist country. We were not allowed to learn about religion. The churches were warehouses, or burned or destroyed. Communism was very, very, very strict. So over there, everything is controlled. The income, what you're supposed to think, what you're supposed to do.
As a young teenager in Albania, Lydia assisted her mother, who worked long evenings in their clandestine bakery business. Although it was illegal to watch television programs from capitalist countries, Lydia's father rigged a TV antenna into their home. One of those late nights in the mid-1980s, Lydia tuned in to the Coral Ridge Hour with Dr. D. James Kennedy, an encounter that would reshape her future.
When I was little, I would watch TV sometimes just to learn different languages. And at nighttime, I would see Coral Ridge Church through broadcasting, international broadcasting, 30 minutes on Sundays. He was wearing a blue robe. I only remember the name Dr. Kennedy. the power of that voice and seeing the church and the cross, it was very powerful for me. And on Sundays, it was something that it became to me like a routine.
Although Lydia understood little English, she was drawn to the church and what it stands for. At that time in the 1980s, there was no internet, making worldwide exposure limited. It's very likely Lydia picked up the International Coral Ridge Hour telecast, which reached 165 countries on nearly 700 stations.
And Dr. Kennedy made an impact on me. Had no idea he was from Florida. Had no idea he was American.
Lydia's interest in foreign languages and cultures brought her to the United States in 1995, where she went to college in Fort Lauderdale, of all places, and later married and moved to New York. On a visit to Fort Lauderdale, some friends invited her to church, and much to her astonishment, she stepped through the doors of Coral Ridge.
When the music started and I see Dr. Kennedy and I start crying, they say, "Why are you crying?" I say, "I've been watching this guy from Albania." I have no idea that I lived not even 4 blocks away from here, and this is the church I've been watching on TV. The day that I came to Christ was the day that I walked into this church.
Soon after Lydia's visit to Coral Ridge, she and her small family moved back to Fort Lauderdale to raise her daughter in the only church she remembers as a child in Albania.
My mission was for her to come back here to be raised with my family in the church and to go to this school, because for me this was home. Coral Ridge Ministry means a lot to me because I raised my daughter here. I do believe that the message through broadcasting or through any social media that this church can do to reach people like me, it is so immense that you guys cannot measure it. I hope and pray to God it can reach to people abroad, not only United States.
Stephen, Lydia's testimony of hearing the gospel through the ministry of CRM behind the Iron Curtain in Albania is just one story of impact. Isn't this just a great reminder of how God can use a Christian media ministry that is promoting a biblical worldview?
Yes, Lydia's story is just stunning to me. She doesn't even speak the language, and she's impacted by the joy and the power and the authority. I had just a little of that. I don't have a story like hers, but I was living in Berlin, Germany, behind the Iron Curtain at about the same time, a little earlier. My father was a military intelligence officer, and I remember D. James Kennedy being on television, on German television. I didn't even fully understand what was being said, but I too remember the command, the authority, the building, the joy, the music. In our time, it's amazing the way that just a powerful presentation of the gospel in its full orbed sense can reach people who don't even necessarily speak the language. I mean, the impact that Christian ministry and media is having in places like Iran. Iran's one of the fastest growing countries in terms of the gospel today, and they're using Western media to do it, driving around in cars, downloading this material, listening on their cell phones. So we are right where we need to be. We're on the forefront of this kind of presentation. We got one hand on the gospel and one hand on Christian media, and we're doing it prayerfully and under the power of the Holy Spirit. I'm excited about what's coming.
Stephen, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate your friendship and your contribution to Coral Ridge Ministries.
It's a privilege. Thank you.